Welcome back everybody, my name is Tucker and today's video is your Monday episode of the SL Show. Today we're going to be going over some of the results from last night's games and what they mean for a couple of teams around the league. Then we're going to be looking at the ESPN power rankings for the NBA as we will every single Monday moving forward. And then we're going to talk about some Jamal Crawford potential free agency rumors. First up, let's talk about the Orlando Magic getting a 125-121 win over the Washington Wizards last night in a game that mostly became about Markelle Fultz. He put up a career-high 19 points in the win, going 8 for 10 from the field and even knocking down 2 threes as well, and made some big plays down the stretch to help the Magic win the game. And of course, the narrative that comes out of this is that Markelle Fultz is back, right? Like the comeback is complete. He's come all the way back from all these struggles and all these issues that he had in the beginning of his career. And even though I'm not quite there yet, at least not in terms of him becoming some kind of like all-star player or something, he looks like a rotation player right now for the Magic, and there are certainly some promising signs. Now, to me, his jumper does still look weird. It still looks like he shoots the ball way too low, but it also definitely looks like it's improved. Let me give you some numbers. He's shooting over 48% from the field and 82% from the free throw line, which is really critical because typically that's the best way to tell whether a guy's shot form is on point, their free throw percentage more so than any of the other percentages that you might see. So that's a really promising sign. He's shooting over 2 threes a game, even though not on a very good percentage at all. At least he does have the confidence to take those, and he's already almost played as many games this season at 13 as he did in either of his first 2 seasons, being 14 games and 19 games respectively. Now, like I said, I'm not going all in here and saying, oh, this guy's going to be an all-star caliber player down the road. I'm still not seeing those kinds of things from him, and he has plenty of things to work on in his game. However, these are the most positive signs that we have seen from him since he initially had all of those issues in Philadelphia. And so now he has this season and next season to continue to improve, to show what he has, what he's worked on in his game in advance of his 2021 free agency, unless he comes to an extension agreement with the Magic before that. And if he continues to improve, I would imagine there's going to be a good amount of teams that will be interested in him, given his potential and ideally the improvement that he will have shown in that time. Moving on now, let's talk about a team that nobody's really discussing at the moment, and that is the Sacramento Kings, who took down the Boston Celtics 100-99 yesterday and snapped the Celtics' 10-game winning streak at the time. And the reason this is significant is because after an 0-5 start that looked completely disastrous for the Kings, everything looked like it was going wrong. The Luke Walton coaching change looked like a complete mistake, and they had all these injuries and everything was just falling apart. Well, since then, they've won 5 of their last 7, and even their 2 losses were to the Raptors and the Lakers by a combined 6 points. So it's possible that the Kings might be turning this thing around a little bit. Buddy Hield has continued to play great. He's shooting over 40% on high volume from 3. Bogdanović is starting to figure it out, and Richaun Holmes, of all players, is looking like a really foundational piece for some franchise moving forward, because he's probably going to get a relatively large deal this offseason if he continues to play like this. He brings great energy, has great athleticism. He's always had the physical tools, and he's always been an intriguing player, but this year he's putting it all together, specifically in the absence of Marvin Bagley, who got hurt in the very first game of the year for Sacramento. And at the end of the day, this Kings stuff and everything that's happening with Richaun Holmes could end up just being a blip on the radar. In 2 weeks from now, I could be doing this exact same segment, but talking about how they're once again falling apart. But I do think it's worth noting how much they're managing to turn things around over their last 7 games, and they're a team worth keeping an eye on once they start getting healthy, as a team that could potentially make a run in the second half of the season if that win over the Celtics yesterday and over their last 5 of 7 games, winning those games, is any indication. And then the last team that I want to talk about is the one that right now is the best team in the entire league, in my opinion, and that is the LA Lakers, coming off of a 20-point win over the Hawks last night that now puts them at 11-2 on the season. Now, I will openly admit, as I always will on this channel, I was wrong about the Lakers to this point in the season. Before the year, I wasn't 100% convinced that this was going to be a team that was going to challenge for a top 2 or 3 seed in the Western Conference, and I will always be willing to admit when I'm wrong about things on this channel, because when you're going to talk about as many NBA things as I'm going to, I'm under no illusion that I'm always going to be right. I'm just always trying to make sure that I'm putting together the most well-researched and logical opinion that I possibly can. Now, going back to some of the points that I made before the season about the Lakers, I recognized how great the LeBron-AD combination was going to be if they remained healthy, but I questioned most specifically their depth as well as their three-point shooting. Now, I am going to start to say some positive things about the Lakers, but I do also want to mention that it doesn't necessarily mean that all those concerns are completely taken away from me just because the Lakers have started 11-2, because LeBron and AD are both averaging almost 35 points a game, and this team is bottom 10 in almost every single three-point shooting category across the league, so those concerns are still there, but they're finding ways to overcome them anyway. They somehow have the best defensive rating in the league and a top 10 offense. LeBron and AD, that pairing has just clicked immediately, and they've looked fantastic when they're on the floor at the same time, and they're finding ways to get contributions out of players like Avery Bradley and even Dwight Howard. So right now, on November 18th, as of the recording of this video, I'm willing to say that the LA Lakers are the best team in the entire league. Here we are near the end of November, not even Thanksgiving yet. However, if that's going to be the case for the rest of the season and into the playoffs, they're going to need to continue to improve their depth as well as their shooting, and they need both AD and LeBron to hold up throughout the entire season and be healthy and ready to go in the playoffs, which are still question marks for me, but I'm going to say right now that they are the best team in the league as of today. And that is a nice little segue into the next segment that I'm going to be doing every single Monday, where I review the ESPN Power Rankings that are also put out every single Monday. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I'm just going to highlight a few teams that I want to talk about in terms of where they are on these rankings. And the first team that I want to discuss is the Houston Rockets, who right now ESPN has ranked as the third best team in the entire league, and I'm not ready to buy into all of that right now. Now, granted, they have won 7 games in a row, which is a big reason why they're at number 3, and I understand that the whole point of power rankings is that they're supposed to fluctuate based off how well teams are playing in that moment, so you can certainly defend them being number 3. However, when I watch them play, I don't think they're the third best team in the entire league, and even with that 7-game winning streak, even given that, 4 of those teams, the first 4 teams that they beat in that winning streak, were the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Bulls, and then the Pelicans, which are not exactly great wins. Now, having said that, James Harden has been awesome, is averaging over 40 points a game in the winning streak and nearly 40 points a game throughout the entire season to this point, despite really not shooting the ball very well at all in the beginning of the season. But for me, this is more just about the eye test. Now, I'm not expecting it to be a great game to watch when I'm watching the Rockets. Offensive continuity is not a thing. There's going to be a lot of isolation, a lot of contested shots, and sometimes they're just going to be better than other teams at shooting and scoring the ball, but their defense has also been pretty good as well. I will give them credit. But for me, again, when I watch them play, I'm just not seeing them as a real championship contender right now, which is what number 3 in the rankings for me should mean. However, I understand the point of the power rankings. I just want to make a couple of points about how I'm not buying in a ton to the Rockets at the moment. And then the only other team this week that I want to talk about in the ESPN Power Rankings is the San Antonio Spurs, who are sitting currently at number 15. And this really doesn't have all that much to do with like where they are in the rankings, but I feel like nobody's really talking about how much the Spurs are struggling right now. Now, things started off pretty normal for them. They won their first 3 games of the year, got off to a really good start, but as of right now, the Spurs are on a 5-game losing streak and have dropped 7 of their last 8 games, which is completely uncharacteristic for them. And as much talk as there normally is about this team's offense not being as modernized as the rest of the league, shooting more mid-range jumpers, not taking as many threes as the rest of the league, that really hasn't been the issue. They have the 8th best offensive rating in the entire league. The problem is they just can't get stops, as they have the 24th rated defense in the league to this point in the season. I mean, they've got plenty of guys on the roster that are having perfectly fine offensive seasons. They just can't find a way to get stops. And even though I have faith that Popovich is going to find a way to figure it out to get them to at least be a top 15 defense, as they are every single year, it seems like, this is going to be a pretty tough task for him. And I'm interested to see if it's something that they're going to be able to turn around, or if this is really going to be the start of the Spurs falling out of this dynastic run that they've been on for the last 20 or so years. And then last up today, as I typically like to do when I'm ending the show, is I like to just, talk about a headline that maybe hasn't really been talked about, people aren't mentioning. And this one is Jamal Crawford on being a free agent, quote, "It's baffling to me." Now, this is significant because lately we've seen a couple of higher-ish profile free agents get signed mid-season, with Carmelo Anthony and Iman Shumpert being signed last week to the Trailblazers and the Nets, respectively. But Jamal Crawford is a notable name that hasn't retired, but also still hasn't found a new team for this season. And I'll admit that I'm rooting for Jamal Crawford. I hope he ends up finding a team. I hope that he ends up finding a role, because I do think that it's still exciting to watch him play. But from a realistic perspective, I'm not sure that he's really going to help a team all that much. I mean, even going back to last year in Phoenix, like, he had some moments, but he really wasn't that good for them. He's a player that needs the ball to be effective. He's a bit of a ball stopper on offense. He's not an efficient scorer at all, and he's an awful defender. So it's really a very specialized niche kind of role that he needs to fill, and I think that's a big reason why he hasn't been signed to this point. And those other two players, Shumpert is going to be a solid defender, make some occasional shots off the ball, and even Melo, even though he has some of the same issues, not being a great defender, not being a very efficient scorer, we know the issues with Melo, he is at least a bigger body that can play like the 3 or the 4 spot if you need him to, and he is a little bit younger than Crawford as well, so I think it makes sense right now that he doesn't have a team. Now, having said that, there have been a ton of injuries this season, and if those continue to pile up, it wouldn't be surprising at all for me to see Jamal Crawford find a team at some point this season, but I do think it's worth discussing that I really don't think that it's anything that teams are doing wrong by not signing him. It's just he's not nearly as effective as he needs to be on a roster consistently at this point in his career. But there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video and the very first SL show of the week. I'm going to plan on doing these at least a couple of times a week. I'm going to kind of, play around with a couple of different schedules and see what you guys enjoy. But as always, if you're enjoying the video, leaving a like rating is a great way to let me know. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, then be sure to subscribe as well. But like I said in the beginning, my name is Tucker. I thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.